Finish what you start. Finish what you start. Every endeavor, every undertaking that we or any person takes involves a start and a finish. Finish what you start.
Welcome back to the neighborhood family. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray, and I want to thank you for tuning in to Happy Hill, the podcast. This is where we connect, cultivate, and build a meaningful community that is centered around health, agape, power, institute, happy hood. It's a purpose-driven lifestyle. What's going on, family? I'm so excited that you decided to join us again for a wonderful edition of Happy Hill, the podcast. Finish what you start. Yes, finish what you start. This is where we talk to unique individuals and we really try to break down the how-tos as well as just allow them to share their experiences and how it has helped them to live a purpose life and really to allow them that to finish what you start, to allow it to be the foundation, the mantra of their life to finish what you start. So today there is another guest we have for you, another guest that I truly believe lives a finish what you started lifestyle, lives a purpose-driven lifestyle. She is a mom, she is a creative, she is a wife, she is a beautiful person inside and out. She is the host of the Healing Hour. She is a host of the Healing Hour, where she talks about a range of topics including childhood trauma, racism, and yes, moving through your whole phase,
Yes,
which I,
yes,
I
yes.
gotta get a definition of what that means, moving through your whole phase. But hey,
Yes.
family, let's give a warm welcome for my sister, Miss Yasmin Burris. What's
Oh
going
my
on?
goodness. That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Hey, is I
Community.
I gotta give credit where credit's due, and for those like family, you have seen Yasmin Burrs in our vision board gathering earlier this year. She
That was
came by
good.
and
That was
provided some
good.
wonderful tips on how to really continue to maintain your self-care, right? So go back and look at that beginning of the year, and don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, go follow Healing Hour. Go also follow her podcast. We'll also be dropping all the ads and social media handles that you can go follow. So we'll definitely do that. Yasmin, again, thank you
Yes.
so much. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. No, like really, thank you. I appreciate you, seeing value in what I'm doing. And like you said, this kind of like purpose that's driving me right now. I love the collaboration that's happening. Like people just trying to lift other people up. Like so needed. So
Yes,
needed. Yeah.
yes. I mean, that's what it's about. That's about connecting,
Hmm.
cultivating, and building. And
Yes.
Yasmin, I thought we'll start here because one, as I said before, your podcast, while it is target towards women,
Hmm.
men, we can definitely I encourage all men to definitely go take a listen to that because like I
Yes.
said before, one that I was really enjoyed was the one around trauma, right? And I know you had mentioned that hey, there's some trauma that you may have experienced at a young age, and
Hmm.
really a lot of things that you have done based on your past experience has really helped you and fostered you into living this life and really having a passion for healing. So I guess
Yeah.
the best way to start is like tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Yes. Wow. That's a great question. And it's a great passion point
Okay.
because I am so grateful for this period of life I'm in.
Uh-huh.
And this period of life I would describe as very reflective, very
Yeah.
introspective.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even recognizing things that my parents, like calling my father and saying, like, I used to when you used to make me sit down and watch documentaries about Marcus Garvey and, Malcolm X. But I'm so happy that you invested in me that way, because I can see the ways that benefits my life today. And thank you for that. Right. But I guess to just, answer the question of a little bit about my upbringing. So I definitely came from, I guess, what I would describe a fragmented family. Like the old school term half sisters. Like I have half, all of my siblings are halves, right? There's half somewhere. So I grew up with my mother, my biological mother, but still had a very close relationship with my father. And, in my teenage years, due to some financial restraints, I ended up moving with my father, which I guess at that age, like that was a pivotal age. Like I can see now, reflecting back, the timing of it was divine, right? But I ended up moving with my father and my stepmother, who I also had like a very good relationship with, and they cultivated me, because what I realized is my mother, much like many other Black women today, was a hurt woman, and she never was able, or not, let me not say never, but it took her a long time to realize that she didn't have to do things the way she was doing them. But obviously, as you're on that journey, there's people along the way, and especially if you're a parent, I think you would understand. We can't separate our pain and our trauma and our bad parts from our kids. They get it all. So,
try, but it's definitely going to come back.
Yeah, it's going to come back. So that's why it's so important for us to do the work to address those things, so that we can do things differently. That's the goal. Each generation should be better than the last. But I think for my upbringing, I just kind of floating is probably the best way. When you've spent time in different environments, you kind of learn like a chameleon. Okay, what do I need to survive in this environment? What do I need to survive in that environment? And then even just culturally coming from Georgia, which is a very diverse place, or at least the part of Georgia I'm from, moving to like Lake Norman in North Carolina, which is a little bit more homogeneous. Even that like culture transition for me, all of it kind of came together to this moment right here, which is really a faith walk. Like the healing hour, the podcast, all of that is God's idea. It's just I finally decided to start listening. So,
there you go. Hey, that's all it starts with. Like, okay, I surrender.
Right. You want me to? Okay, I'll do that. You're right.
Yeah. So growing up, and like to your point, having to move, or in this case, as a young child, shifting, from living from one parent to living with the other. Like, I think about, like, far as at that age, was you able to comprehend what was going on, or what was you thinking? You know what I'm saying, as you was going through these different scenes, or life-changing events?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's not even an easy answer.
Yeah,
I would just I'm like, the best way I think I can answer that is, especially when I'm understanding today, is that if we do not address our trauma, if we do not address our dysfunction, if we do not address our hurt, whether intentionally or unintentionally, we're going to hurt other people, because you don't know what to do with it, right? Like if you're a child and you were left, it's really hard unless you go to a professional, unless you're very intentional about healing that wound. It's very easy to internalize that and say, I was left because I'm somebody who should be left. Instead of saying, I had a parent who was lost, or I had a parent who maybe they didn't get the love that they needed, so they were never able to really turn that corner. And so let me not take it personal, because if I continue to think of myself in that way, I'm probably gonna repeat the same pattern, because I'm feeling those same feelings, and we learn to project them all in the same way, I guess. So that was a long-winded way of, I guess, just saying, and I feel like I almost lost the original question because
I guess
I went down the trail. I was like
no,
trauma.
no, and that's like I guess as I said it, let me kind of rephrase it, right?
Yes,
Being
yes.
that you're at the age now where you're able to articulate what
Mm-hmm.
occurred at a young age, right? Because I think in Happy Family, again, at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
until you address some of the hurt, especially childhood hurt,
Mm-hmm.
you will not really, in my opinion, be able to live a God-filled life. And what I
I
mean
agree
a God-filled life,
1000%.
like God calling life, right? You
Mm-hmm.
will always be looking for things and people to fill a
Mm-hmm.
void or to medicate a hurt that you never address, right? And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you don't even know that you're hurting, right?
Yes.
So I say like all those things to say now that you're at the age where you are able to articulate a little bit better of those feelings that you had at a young child, what do you think was some of the like talk to me about those
Okay.
feelings? You know what I'm saying? Like
I got you now. Yes. I think one, I will say that my heart was broken because the people who like my parents and it goes back. I can see it so clearly, right? Like my grandmother was the child of like one generation, really is kind of not even a full generation from slavery, right? So her mother, I don't have time to nurture you emotionally. I don't have
mm,
time to tend to you, for your mental development and your spiritual development. I'm trying to keep you alive. And so, even though my great grandmother did the best she could with what she had at that time, which was like, baby, you got to survive, that doesn't mean that my grandmother didn't get all of the things she needed. So then that was passed on, and so so on and so forth. My grandmother, grandfather, up the chain, right? So for me as a child, I think it was hard for them to give love because they hadn't felt it, right? That we weren't really sure what unconditional love looked like, right? Love is based on performance. Love is based on what value you bring. Love is based on what you're doing for me in this moment. I don't care what you did 3 years ago. I don't care what you're going through. What are you doing for me right now? That's how we learn love. So as a child, I learned that very early on. Like, okay, so if I say this, if I do this, if I act this way, again, go into the different environments. Okay, what's needed to survive in this environment? Okay, I need to be this way. Okay, I need to be that way. I picked that up very quickly. Like I picked up how to move and swivel out of the way of
mm,
danger, right? Because hurt people, and that comes out. We laugh about it culturally, but getting your behind whooped time after time when you make a mistake teaches you that when you make a mistake, you need to be punished.
honest, yeah.
So now you're an adult and you miscalculated, you made a mistake, and now you feel you deserve punishment instead of grace and support and help.
Yeah.
You
It's no, I it's gonna be good, Happy Hood family. This is gonna be good. Um, because as you was talking, so a couple of things came to my
know?
mind, and I think we're at a moment where I think we are experiencing, and when I say we are generation, like the
Mm-hmm.
millennial generation is
Yep.
experiencing, I would say, as people have said, like the great awakening or the great reawakening. I think we're experiencing another reawakening.
Yes.
I think I want to say is more spiritual because, and the reason why
Yes.
I say is because to your point, our parents and their parents did the best that they could do at that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about love, I remember my father's a preacher. And
Mm-hmm.
I can remember when he started realizing that I need to tell you as my son, as my daughter, that I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't dawn on him until years later, until I was like much older, that he needs to start saying, "Hey, I love you,"
Yep.
because he didn't actually get that at times from his father. it's almost like, and I think the movie Fences, um
Oh yeah, that's the one.
that yeah, the character that Denzel Washington played, I
Mm,
think like he really embodies a lot of men, especially during
yes,
that time of the 1940s and 30s. I think is around that time, that felt
yes,
like that they were forgotten, you
yes.
know, and so they had hurt that therefore brought on those hurts to their family, and then it became generation,
It's a
and then
big cycle.
big cycle. And I think
Mhm.
now we are really, as men and women, are really starting to address, like, no, I think it's time to address this. I think it's time to address certain things that we hid, we 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 hidden from, or we
Yes.
hide, and really talk them out. You know, where a
Yep.
lot of us now are more seeking therapy. We're doing more things to really be in tune to
Mm-hmm.
our inner self, right?
Yes.
And I think it's so necessary at this time, as you say that, because you're learning, or I think for me, and I wonder if you feel the same way for your parents, of giving grace,
Oh
right?
yes. Oh yes.
Right?
That was the turning point for me. That was the
Right.
point because and I was just about to say that it's so magical that you shared that because I was thinking about it's not even blame. I feel like
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes these conversations, like, I know for me, speaking to my parents or, my husband's parents, whatever, whatever that kind of generation above, they get real tense and it's not blame. I understand. It is amazing that you were able to do what you
yeah,
did,
yeah.
knowing what you did not have to get
No,
me here with enough comfort and mind space to
come
say,
on,
oh,
man.
maybe we should heal our emotions.
Yeah,
You provided me a life of comfort enough to spend time to think about my
yeah,
emotions, which is not something you had
yeah,
time to think about, right?
yeah,
So it's not blame, it's understanding that the ways in which we did things before, it was not good for us. It helped us survive, it got the job done, but today, here and now,
we gotta
we
thrive.
gotta, yeah, you deserve to be seen. You deserve to be heard. Everybody's feelings here matter. Nobody should have to shift or change or be afraid to tell someone, hey, when you said that, it hurt my feelings. That culture, those things, they gotta die. Or like, man, like, oh no, you ain't got no feeling.
Yeah,
Suck it up, man.
yeah.
Look
Why
at
you
you.
crying,
No,
man? Why you crying?
men
Man,
got
don't
the
cry.
same feelings.
Yeah,
You know what? It's crazy, Murray, because I had this realization, like, again, grace. That's really what it was.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
God softened another layer of my heart. Where I said, well, I've been through quite a bit of trauma, but so has my husband. So that
yeah,
means just like I have triggers, he has triggers. Just like
yeah,
there's areas that he has to be gentle with me, there's areas I have to be gentle with him. And if we both are doing that for each other, then everybody is nourished.
yeah.
You
Mm,
know?
Everyone is nourished. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. And I think too, I mean, it's amazing. And I'm glad that we now have space
Yeah.
to talk like this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, again, I would say this, and I know people may I'm trying to articulate it best as I can, but I think for the family, unless more and more black men really step up and have a healing process,
Yes.
we can't truly see our families thrive. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Because, like, I believe by my faith that yes, we are the head of the household, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't mean that we don't listen to our wife, or it's like, hey, do this. No,
It doesn't mean that at all.
yeah, it's pretty much like we set a tone for the house.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We set a tone for the house of, hey, here's how we are aligned. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we are moving, right? You are the
Mm-hmm.
priest of your house. You know what I'm saying? So things that we do, understand we do it because of this, right? You know,
Mm-hmm.
we do it because of what has been provided to us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, as to your point, as more and more men, especially Black men, really address our hurts, right? We can't really thrive as
Yep.
a community until we do that.
You
You know?
want to know something I think is so interesting that I just thought of? So, you know how I don't know if it's a stereotype or whatever you call it, but like when you hear about Latin men, there's like they're lovers.
Mhm.
They're the loving men. And, Black men obviously is nothing as soft and as cute and gentle as that. But what I have learned in my healing journey, being surrounded around other men and women who are intentionally healing, there's a lot of Black men who are very, very gentle, very
Yeah.
sensitive souls, feelers, carers. Like they care for things, they love for things, and
Yeah.
it's so different than the reigning narrative. But
Mhm.
it's just like I've realized with Black women, this world kind of like beats that out of you so fast that we forget that, like, oh wow, we're people, we have
Yeah.
feelings, we like to be happy, we like to do things that feel good, and we really don't get as many opportunities to do it unless you make a conscientious choice to shift and say, no, I'm going to live this way now.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think about it, and you mentioned your healing journey,
Mm-hmm.
what was I guess the tipping point or the catalyst that really brought you to a moment? And I think, again, I'm gonna say this because I'm vibing right now, y'all. So there's a powerful moment when you begin to accept.
Yep.
When you begin to accept, I'm broken, I'm hurting, right? It's like now you're able to move from that next phase of the healing, right? The healing process
Mm-hmm.
starts. So talk to us a little bit about that moment when you was able to accept, I'm hurting, I need to get help.
Mm-hmm.
I need more. I need healing.
Yes. Yes, that great question. I love this question. And it's a little layered. So I would
Okay.
say, like, layer one was, like you mentioned, some of us don't even know we're hurting.
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily know I was hurting because
Yeah.
I was so busy masking how I was feeling. I was just kind of
Mm.
going through life through autopilot.
Mhm.
And, like a lot of people say, when you find out you have a child, like, you changed my life. Like, I had one of those moments. I found out I was going to be somebody's mom. And then those feelings that I had been kind of like masking and escaping, they came to the surface very quickly. Because,
Ooh.
like you said, my childhood, it took me back. Now it's like, oh, I remember when I was a child. And now, reality, I'm face to face, right? That there's some things that I didn't deal with. And those things, little did I know, were coming, they were spewing off of me. I had no clue. So finding out I was having a child, through guidance from my mom, she was like, I think you should go to therapy, right? And like you said, I think as millennials, we're just a little bit more open to that. It's not as taboo for us to go talk to somebody, get help.
Mhm.
And so I went to therapy, and it's so funny because it was actually couples therapy. And I definitely went in there like, this man's broken, so like fix him and it will be perfect, right? Like, because again, I didn't know I was feeling this way. That woman turned my life upside down and around. And it was probably the first time that I had a space that was safe to speak about what happened to me. And like you said, realizing, like, damn, I've been through it a little bit. Goddamn. You know what I mean? Like, I had one
Mhm.
of those moments. And
Mhm.
I think that realization was enough for me to say, okay, I want to be intentional about this, mental health thing, because learning that has changed how I feel, just on a day to day. Like, I felt very
Yeah.
heavy before, and I
Yeah.
felt lighter, and I was feeling a little bit more confident and all of those
Yeah.
things. So fast forward, I was working on that, tending to it. But what really like took it to that next level is, over that same period, I met God. And I
Woo.
went, I
Met a
never
name.
know.
You met a man named
I
Jesus.
met, he came upon
Hey.
as a result of there, it was so divinely coordinated, right? Because it was like, okay, go to therapy. Went to therapy. She was a Christian therapist. I didn't think too much of it. I was like, it's more important to me that she's Black, right? Like that's what I cared about. And I went, and she would just drop. She would say little things like, it sounds like you might be fighting a spiritual war, and that sounds a little like a soul tie. We just drop these little hints, and she had recommended. She was like, I think you should try this church called Elevation. It's a little unorthodox. I think you might walk in. There's some things that are going to surprise you, but I just want you to focus on how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
I went, and that very first time I experienced the Holy Spirit for the first time, I did not know what was happening to me. Am I dying? Like, what is this rush? This feeling? What is this? But I can stay in this feeling forever. And I was kind of like one of those people. I went, I loved that feeling. I was like, all right, well, let me volunteer. Okay, I'll volunteer. And I started volunteering. And it's like the more that you seek God, the more that God will bring you in. And so the beginning of the pandemic, I don't know what it was. I had amped up my praise and worship. I noticed, I was like, dang, I don't really listen to my secular music anymore, but it's because I just got to stay in God's presence. I'm feeling,
Come on now.
Great. And so, that elevated to praise and worship, elevated to meditations, and then that finally elevated to reading the word. And then like God came in with some Timberland boots and was like, all right, your life's mine now. And I was like, okay. And ever since then, things have been crazy.
Yo, so I mean, like, no, because this is so real, and people need to hear it because, like, and I'll say this, like, me growing up as a PK, I got a secondhand encounter, or I had a secondhand relationship when it came to God. So I saw God always like this. It wasn't till I started being more submissive to God's will and stop fighting God's rest, but resting in his presence. I started seeing him like God like this. And when, to your point, when you start reading, it's like, yo, it truly ain't nothing new under the sun. It's truly nothing. Like, people was tempted, and David was tempted, and this happened, and God used this, and yeah, every no doesn't mean you can't get it, and it's just the time. It's just like it's so much things that just like just lifted.
Yes.
From like what I was accustomed to, because I was taking in what someone said based off their relationship. And then once I was able to have a relationship of my own, because I'm gonna tell you the verse that like I felt literally changed falling was in Matthew's, where the Pharisees asked Jesus the greatest commandment. He said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. The emphasis when he said love the Lord your God, it didn't say love the Lord your mama God, your auntie God, your daddy God, your brother God, Deacon Harris God. He said love the Lord your God. And I was like, oh, so there's a one-on-one relationship with this?
Yes.
There's a one-on-one, and then you start reading that, and then it's like you start receiving God's grace. And then you start understanding when Paul writing, when he says as like grace saved us.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like your acts, there's nothing that you can do or not do to receive God's for God not to give you grace and mercy.
And that was the one that took me out, to hear that you can be loved, but I don't have to work for it. So hold on, I don't have to, because I definitely started the people. It was like, okay, so I'm the best God pleaser because look, I do this, that, now I got my little checklist. That's not what it's about.
super Christian. Hallelujah. You know what I'm saying? Come see me now. You know, I'm a super Christian. I don't do that no more.
I didn't do those things because I'm saved by
Yeah.
grace, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, it was when it was really like you said earlier, like when I said, I am broken. My heart
Mm.
is in critical condition. Like, I did not realize how close to death I was in terms of like
Ooh.
giving up on life, giving up on love, giving up
Yeah.
on being a good person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like when, and I think the best example, and not to go on a tangent, but when you talk about God, you gotta let that conversation flow,
Hey, come
okay?
on. Yeah, that's what we here for.
When
I love God.
I used to be so judgy of people worshiping. I'm like, it don't take all of that falling on the floor. I mean, just so judgy. Like, why does she have to post her scriptures every day? Like, okay, we know you believe in the Lord. Like, hating from the, and now knowing, like, when I hear things like he's a restorer, he's a redeemer, he'll purify you. He though, like, man, I be on the floor. I be rolling on the floor, put the sheet on me because I'm so grateful for this life and for this love. And God's love changes you. So how does a happy hood come to be? How does a healing hour comes to be? It comes to be people meet God. God turns your whole life around, and then you realize that God sent me here for a reason. There's nobody else that can do this like me. He knew it, he saw it, he feels it. And if I just trust him enough, if I just say this makes no sense to me, but I'll just try it, it all starts to make sense.
Yeah. It's always funny because, like, when you talk about trust, and so my word for the year is clarity. And it's based off Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. You know, trust in the Lord with all their heart, lean not on your own understanding. And like, I had a moment, and this is why this is the reason why I love God so much, because I can come boldly to his throne of grace. And to understand that is, again, when Paul is writing that, no, it's in Hebrews. The Hebrews author is writing us that Jesus, without any sin, knew temptation. He knew your frustration. He knew, like, again, God coming down in human form. So he knew what certain things that would trigger you, right?
Yes.
And I think the wonderful thing is that to come to God boldly, to your point, and say, I'm broken, I'm scared, I'm angry. And for God to say, I hear you, I'm listening, you know what I'm saying? And I love you regardless of what your thoughts is, regardless if you just cuss somebody out. I love you.
Yes.
You still are worthy, you know, those things there. Like, I have moments where I'm like, my insecurities come up, and I'm like, you love me like I ain't the best, you
Yes.
know. I'm not, I don't do this well, you know what I'm saying? I don't live
Yes.
this quote unquote Christian life, you know. I'm not a super Christian, you know what I'm saying? I don't do this, I don't do. And God, like, bro, I love you. And at the end of the day, do you trust me? God asked me, do you trust? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you know, like, yeah, but
Like,
it's
I'm scared, but
I'm
I
scared.
do. But then those insecurities creep in, and I don't think enough people talk about how your earthly insecurities can translate into your relationship with God. Because if I don't think I'm worthy in my flesh, then I'm like, well, God means that for everybody but me. Like, you still kind of have that little thing that creeps in, so it's hard to trust because I'm like, well, what? Maybe not me. Maybe you meant that for other people, and that's a real thing. Like, give that to him too. Like, please help me trust you. Help me learn to believe I'm worthy of your love. You can put whatever you want in front of God, and you will see it change. You will see it be different.
You see it be different. I mean, that's
Yes.
that's the part where sometimes I'm in awe. And I
Yeah.
think if more and more people understand that having a relationship with God is not based on your religious customs.
Yep.
You know, it's more spiritual. Like I'm not a religious person, but I'm a spiritual person. I believe in God, I believe in Jesus Christ, you know, and that's it, you know.
Yes.
And I know God loves me and I love God, and that's
It
it.
is what it is.
It is what it is. I still cut you out and I still cut you.
Look, well, there was a person who I love dearly. Her name is Valerie, and she said, "Ain't nobody passes in heaven, so I don't care what you think about with my walk is Jesus. Jesus see me, we know he is. All right."
Hey, I know that. I know. So talk to us a little bit about the healing hour. You know, what I know a
Yes,
lot that came from having a transformation, you know what I'm saying?
yes.
And to your point of really, you know, having a relationship with God, but like talk to us about the healing hour and what do you want your viewers to walk away with?
Wow, that's a great question. You're on fire with it. Um. Okay, so the healing hour is a part of my life's purpose, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, some of my biggest life wounds have come from Black women, and that God is such a poet, such an artist, because after I surrendered myself to Him, surrendered,
Mm-hmm.
and it was so crazy because the second I surrendered, I started seeing miracles. We talk about miracles, right? Like people, oh, miracles, what do you mean? Blah, blah. I was seeing people that hadn't spoken to each other for in 20 years reuniting. I saw
Yeah.
me teaching my parents and the generation above me how to set boundaries and how to take accountability. I've seen it, right? So trusting God becomes easier because you're like, all right, yeah, I didn't even think any of these things were possible. So clearly you know better than me. But the healing hour, after I kind of had this realization and I started to heal myself and I just saw how different. I think my transformation was what I needed to see it to believe it, to
Mm.
someone who was so insecure finally feeling confident in themselves, someone who was
Yeah.
so starved for love, like loving
Mm.
themselves, somebody who was afraid to advocate for themselves, now advocating for themselves against the big bosses, the people that I never thought I would ever have enough courage to stand my ground against.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of that came together. God, in meditation one day said, I want you to heal this generation of women.
Woo.
Big gulp. I said, me?
Yeah.
To them, no, not me.
Yeah.
Like, nah,
You,
I
you,
ain't never.
you did a Moses moment. You did a Moses moment. Like, pick somebody else, man, not me.
Nah,
You
you
sure?
must have got your wires mixed up.
Yeah.
You must. I said,
Hey,
there's no way.
God, you be man. Come on, big man. Like, come on, dog. Yeah.
There's no way. I don't even know how to be a woman. What do you mean heal
Mm,
this generation of women?
mm.
And so it was kind of like one of those, just trust me. Oh, okay, you said it. I'll just trust you. And I fought it. Let me be honest. I fought
Yeah,
that for a
yeah,
while because
yeah.
I said, there's no way it's me. There's no way. And I just
Mm-hmm.
kept and he would just show me. He kept presenting things to me. It was like, just as a side note, I had my birthday. And I was just telling my husband this about the other day. I posted this picture on on Instagram, and I said this last year was the destroy because, that last year my
Yeah.
life was just like God, just like purifying, just knocking stuff down. I said this year is the rebuild, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
arbitrarily saying it. And I look back and I started a business in a year. I done changed my marriage. We got a marriage group. It's all types of things that transform. So I'm in awe. But the healing hour was just that. I realized that first, I realized that Black women are hurting. And the reason that we are hurting other people, because I don't know about you, but if you've ever met a Black woman that is hurt and has like a lot of bitterness in here, it's such a strong energy. It's powerful. We're powerful either way. We're powerful
Mm-hmm.
negatively or positively. But understanding, having a in my heart, because I had became that woman, like my poor husband, right? Like stereotypical black woman, like cutting him down. I don't need you. All this man, like, I love you. I don't. What is wrong with you? I don't understand. What's wrong with you? And I'm like, no,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
love me. Like, just really acting quite dysfunctional in retrospect, if I want to be honest. And having been restored in such an amazing way, where I am a woman who is so kind and so compassionate and
Mm,
nurturer, and I'm a healer, and I don't want to tear my man down. I want to bring him up, and I don't want
yeah,
to
yeah.
look at myself and be, shame myself or critique myself. I want to love myself. I'm quite lovable. And so I said, oh my God, if we just address the trauma, other black women can see that we don't have to feel this way anymore,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
like
yeah.
that was like
Yep.
the premise of it. And then I had like the secondary layer, which was then realizing the ways, because I also have been, I can admit it now, but that black woman that's like, nigga, N words ain't ish, and like, get your sister. Well, like, kind of came from like really cutting black men down because I was so hurt, honestly, just mad. I'm just mad. And when I had that realization, like, yo, I need this man. And if he treated the way I treated him, I would be a wreck. Why am I being this way if I love him? And realizing it's like self-sabotage. Like I'm so afraid
Mhm.
that you're gonna see the truth about me that I'd rather make you leave before you make the choice. Because I can live it with if I make the choice. I can't live with if you make the choice. So that layer right there, it just kind of made sense of a lot of and I hate to generalize, but a lot of the behaviors that I feel as black women, we're so used to not being heard that some of us become violent with our words because nobody ever listened to us, or some of us don't say anything at all, and we completely shut down and we go cold on you. I was one of those women, like ice cold, baby, like it's done. And just realizing how hurtful that is to the other person. Like, what is that experience like for them? And just
Mhm.
realizing that all of these things that I were doing really came from an innocent place of just being so petrified of the world and just wanting to be loved, that I had to realize that you got to stop fighting everybody. Like, you can take the gloves off, sis.
Mm,
And once I took
mm,
the gloves off, it changed. So that's the healing hour. The healing hour is meant to bring resources, community support, authenticity, practical steps on how to change your life and get the out of this life. Because if we continue to live out of our pain, we're only going to cause more chaos and we'll never truly feel joy or happiness.
mm. Feeling joy and happiness. Like, let me just say, and I do got one other follow-up question with the healing hour. Like,
Yes.
the whole like black boy joy,
Mm.
that mantra, I have really embraced it because one, I was looking for one, with black girl magic and everything. It's like, man, like,
Yeah.
oh, we need one, and like the black boy joy because I see it in my son. I see it. It's
Mm.
like it's for me. It's the joy is not based on conditions.
Yeah.
Joy is unconditional. You know what I'm saying? It's the things, or it's what you do, it's who you are, it's what you receive, it's what you give, you know.
Yes.
And when I hear like my son, like seeing him like get on the bus by himself and wave to me, you know what I'm saying? Like as he on the bus and everything, like I feel like I'll be doing that to him, like to keep him calm, but he be doing that like it's like, hey, you good, dad? You know what I'm saying? I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm a
Aw.
good boy, you know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
seeing him like when the Black Panther came out, he was like, he looked like me, daddy. You know what I'm saying? Seeing him like get
Oh
so excited because
man.
he see a superhero that looks like him, and
Mhm.
just like that black boy joy is like, you know, it's like being in tune with all your emotions, all your emotions. And it's like you are worthy to receive joy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I think everyone needs to understand that you are worthy to receive joy. You are worthy to
Mhm.
receive it. And one thing you mentioned, and I want to get a definition on this. I kind of teased about
Yes.
this early on, but your podcast deal with a range of topics, as you said,
Mhm.
childhood drama, racism, and working through your
Yo
hope
ho phase.
phase. Like,
Yes.
what is that?
Yeah. So I am is that's such a funny question. All right. I'm gonna have to keep this as clean as possible.
Okay.
So I think as a woman, there are a lot of things about me that are not how women should be. And I think that was probably one of the most pivotal things of my relationship with God, of finally just saying, I want you to be you. I made you who you are. Because somebody need to hear it like how you gonna say it. Somebody need to see themselves in you. Like there, that's not a mistake, right? Um, but before I met my husband, I was very much so like, as a woman, get yours. If you see a man and you think he's attractive and you want to connect with him romantically, then do that. And I don't care what other people think. And I'm gonna get mine. And when we are in the intimate moment, I'm gonna tell you exactly how this thing is gonna go. Cause I'm the one who gets to make all the choices here. Like, like that was really my mind frame. And I now understand that a lot of it was driven from my trauma. But
Mhm.
here's the thing, I don't regret it. I needed that time because that
Mhm.
some of my power came from that place of me
Yeah.
actually as a woman realizing like, no, you don't get to tell me what I get to do. You don't get to tell me how I have to live. Nobody gets to tell me that but me. Like, like
Mhm.
I needed that energy because I think I grew up in an environment where I always was someone else's version of who I should be. And after a while, it's kind of like you go from that in your childhood. And I got married really young. So that's another thing that I would like to share. That whole phase has some intersection. You know what I'm saying? And so a part of my love story and a part of the man loving me was understanding like I had a really distorted view of sex and relationships and the relationships between men and women. And so that was a part of my healing work as well. So I say all that to say in the healing hour, like women are gonna hear the truth. Like I'm not here to clean up healing and make it seem like it's this cute thing that you do with your journal and you drink tea. Like that is definitely a part of it. But healing is messy, healing is ugly. We are complicated people and we got to allow ourselves to be complicated. We got to allow ourselves to say like, you know what? I'm a woman and I enjoy sex and I like talking about sex and
Yeah.
I like being sexy and like that's okay. And and I'm also somebody's wife and I'm also somebody's mother and God
Mhm.
still loves me. Like the healing hour, you're gonna get that. You're also gonna get the hey sister, you gotta do better because it's not right for you to be treating them that way.
Mhm.
It's like I want to get the whole range of it, and then you take the information and you make the choices that make sense for your life. But at least you know now you got a benchmark.
Yeah. Now, so a couple of things I want to say because when you had said moving through your whole phase, and as you defined it,
Mm-hmm.
and as your view of marriage, especially sex in the marriage, was distorted, I think I know a lot of men go through that same process.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that, and this is why Happy Family, again, we talking to Yasmin Burris, Happy Heal the podcast, finish what you start. She's the host of the Healing Hour. Um, if we're being honest, and this is why I say as men, why we need to make sure that we are doing all we can to be healed. Because if we're not, we're going to bring a lot of baggage into our marriage. You know what I'm saying? We're going to bring in a lot of things, especially when it comes to intimacy with our wife,
Mm-hmm.
that is because of the things we have not been healed from. We're going to really treat our wife like a hoe.
Yes.
Okay. We're going to really treat our wife like a hoe. And for me, I know until I was truly healed and really set free from pornography, that's when I really start to understand, one, how I was treating my wife before that, and a lot of things that I brought in, into the marriage, but the intimacy that we have now to understand what God has provided me with, right? To where this is what God has created. As Adam said, when Eve was made, it was flesh of my flesh, bone of my bone. We're never closer to God when we're like in having intimacy. Like that's the closest that you can get to what God created us for, to reproduce. You know what I'm saying? This is why I created for, like, and anything about when I had to tell some guys, like, me and my wife, like, before, at times we having intimacy, we would pray. You know what I'm saying? And I remember telling some guys, like, I want God to know what I be doing. I was like,
no, I want him all up in there, because that's, don't limit. God wants you also to have a good time, baby.
That's what he made it for.
Look, some of my best times that I showed up, it was God was with me. Okay. You know, hey, help me love this man correctly, Jesus.
Hey, I'm telling you, because that's what he made it for. That's what God made it for. Yes. And the thing about it, I had to understand, like, when you let God in, it's like, bruh, that's what I made it for. Yeah, this is my presence. This is what I want to be right here. Yes. You know, this is why I made this. It's the whole creation. Why I made a woman out of a man. You know, and I told them to reproduce. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like this is why I made it for, bro. Yeah. And until I was able to understand that and really submit to that. And I'm gonna keep using that word, because as men, we gotta understand, like, submission is not a form of weakness.
Not at all.
Excuse me, it's a form of honor. You know what I'm saying? It's a form of honor, it's a form of loyalty. You know what I'm saying? And we got to understand, when we got to be submitted, and we got to practice submission. You know what I'm saying? And not and no longer fight. You know what I'm saying? With certain things, especially fight with God. Yes. Right? You know what I'm saying?
You ain't gonna win. You won't win.
You ain't gonna win. And it's more God's able to flow. You able to flow like a river. Yeah. You're able to no longer fight it, but go with the flow of it, right? Yeah. And that's when you really start trusting. But to your point, I love how you mentioned, like, you bringing God into all of this. Yes. You know what I'm saying? Because, yeah, Christians, sometimes we want to be sexy. You know what I'm saying? We want like, how should I treat my woman better in the bedroom? How, what do I need to do to treat my man better? All of those things definitely apply to us, right? Yes. And I think it's a beautiful thing as what you're doing to, one, create this safe space for women to be a part of. Yes. You know, to understand that you can be healed too. You know what I'm saying? And as men, as I listen, even to, like, to your point, your last podcast, one of your last podcasts, we talk about complex PTSD. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, man.
You said, hold on, that I might resonate with that a little bit.
I resonate with that, because it's true, right? Yeah. I think, again, like, as men, we can learn a lot for women. And I love what you're doing. I love how you're going after it with a really unstoppable manner, but more importantly, with a joy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a joy that brings me, I get a joy doing this, because, as I have said many a time, if it's just one person that may listen to the podcast and they get changed, or they get inspired, I've done my job.
Because we're somebody's one person. We saw something, we heard something that changed our world. And, it's like walking with God, you see fruit. there's fruit's going to be produced. So, not in like a narcissistic or like a super arrogant way, but I love when people are like, wow, you posted something that made me think about something, or you said something that made me realize this did happen to me, because that sometimes you just need somebody to plant the seed, and then life is, and God is going to water it, and the rest, if you choose to allow it happen, you're going to grow and produce fruit.
Grow and produce fruit. So what's next? Like any upcoming things in regards to the healing hour you want to talk about or announce?
That's great. That's a great question. Thank you. So, look, this journey to merch has been a journey to merch, but I am excited to say that within the next 2 weeks, I will be releasing Healing Hour merch. So that includes sweatshirts. We got some t-shirt dresses, some ball caps, all that cute stuff coming, so you can heal out loud. I feel like make a statement.
Heal out loud. I like that.
Make a statement in your apparel. And something that I'm looking to launch next year, but I'll just put the bug out there for anybody who's like kind of paying attention to my social media or the podcast. But I'm doing some educational things so that I can start offering healing coaching and like really help people build a practical plan of how I can change whatever it is that they want to change in their life. Because I think that no matter what it is you want to change, tying it to the things and traumas you experience, we always have to start there. So that is something that will be coming hopefully in 2023.
Yeah. And I know, Happy Family, we didn't really get into a lot of how-tos. This was really just like a catch up, sip some wine outside, just chill and everything with good people. But if you had to provide two things, right? Just two steps to experience healing, or to begin your healing journey, what would be those two things?
Good question. Okay. So the first, I would say, is implement some type of practice where you just spend time with yourself. So you can call it meditation, you can call it prayer, whatever it is for you, but dedicated, intentional time where you are by yourself and you're just reflecting on how you feel in that moment, what you've been through, whatever it is. Just stillness brings a lot of clarity because it forces us to sit and listen. So that would be step one. And then I would say, just to make it easy and digestible, just start with 5 minutes, 5 minutes every day, and then that will grow. And the second thing that I would say is, if you can't, because I always advocate for therapy, like any type of counseling. There's so many free therapy resources out there, just a Google search away. If you work at an employer and you got any healthcare benefits, your benefits can carry therapy sessions, at least 6 that, you can get free. So just do that. But if you can't, therapy is not something that's accessible to you. There are so many resources of people who are healing on, out loud on social media, which is free to consume. You have Happy Hood, because you're talking about a lot of things like faith, building your faith, resilience, gratitude, which is such a simple, easy way to start changing your perspective, just being grateful for what you have now. But there's the Healing Hour, there's BWC Cultivate, or BW Cultivates. There's, there's so many just healing communities out there. You can take your pick, because we all like, some of us like the way certain people talk. Some of us like how other people, their imagery, whatever it is. Find what you like. There's so many people. There's enough space for everybody. So, just like look for resources, search mental health hashtags and wellness and healing trauma. And because there's so many memes out there that just say stuff to people that people need to hear. I remember I saw something that was like, it's okay to miss people, but that doesn't mean you have to let them back in your life. And I would like, just something so simple for me was like monumental. Yeah. So I would say that.
Good stuff.
What about you? What would you say? Because I feel like you know stuff too.
Me?
Yeah,
No, I think, that's a good question. Wow. So this is how it feels, huh? When I'm like,
Yeah,
let
you
me
weren't
think
ready
on
for
my
that,
feet.
Molly.
I think like, so if I had to give two things, I think, and I'm gonna go back to what I said, is the power of acceptance.
Mm,
To leave the state of denial and begin to accept that you're hurting, that you're broken, that you're angry, right? I think once you begin to accept that, then you are able to see yourself and like, wow, I sound angry. You're able to be more observant
yeah.
of understanding, like, try to take notice of these cues, where if you're not sleeping well, that you're always, certain things like to your triggers, right? To your
Mm-hmm.
moments. And I think once you start accepting those things, then you're able to face them. Because
Yeah.
I believe behind every door of fear, there is liberation. You know what I'm saying? But it's like you're not able
Yes.
to be liberated until you are able, one, to accept it, to face your fears, and
Mm-hmm.
able to now be like, I was able to let go of things, to
Mm-hmm.
release. You know what I'm saying? Because just like, Whitney Gilbert in Different World, when she did a relax, relate, release, you know what I'm
Release.
saying? Like, that is a real thing. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? When you start to accept, you're able to, okay, let me relax, let me relate what is going on, and let me release.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Let me release. So I would say those things there would be what I would recommend, as may not be the first thing you do, but part of your healing journey. You know,
Yeah.
is definitely part of it. One last question for you, ma'am.
Yes.
As we're talking about finish what you start, and I believe you have definitely provided just your experiences that has helped you and shaped and mold you
Mm-hmm.
to finish what you start. So how would you define finish what you start? Like, what does that mean to you, to finish what you start?
I love that because I would say before this, the healing hour really, like, I wasn't a person who finished what I start. Like, big ideas and greatness and doing things that seemed hard, I stayed away from because I had a very like complicated relationship with failure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think finish what you start, how I feel and see it now, especially having such a tangible, like purpose driven initiative or whatever you want to call it that I'm working towards. It's like it's being grounded in the why of something, right? It brings
Mm,
us back to the core of doing purposeful things, because if you're doing something and you have conviction,
mm-hmm.
is there's no option to not finish. Like, I can't not finish the healing hour. I have to see this out. The only way I would
Right.
stop is if God came and said, "All right, stop," because it's so much bigger than me. And I think that piece is like, if you're doing something, I feel like it has to have some type of meaning behind it if you really want to persevere through when it gets difficult, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can apply that to your business, right? Like,
Mhm.
there are times being an entrepreneur that really suck, and they are so difficult, and you are so confused, and you feel so defeated, and you're like, I'm putting my all into it, but nothing's happening. You need something bigger that pushes you through those moments, because those moments are temporary. And it's
Mm.
the same with marriage, right?
Come on.
I'm here with
Hello.
a reality check.
Message.
You're not always gonna like your spouse. There's
Mhm.
times that you're not gonna like them for days at a time. You get real
Message.
deep in it. It could be met in months at a time. But
Mhm.
just because I don't like you right now, I don't get to bow out of this. I made a commitment to you. I'm gonna finish what I started, and what I started is a vow to love you until we're done.
Whoop,
So
whoop.
let's figure it out. So
Let's figure it out, baby.
I think, conviction, right? Like, I think if anybody has something that they want right now, like, I want this, I want to be a better person, I want to change, I want to
Mhm.
whatever, and you realize you keep doing it and you don't finish, then have grace with yourself, but you need to take some time to sit down and assess what's happening, what's getting in your way. Is it trauma? Is it fear? Is it that you're not asking for help and you need help? You're gonna find something. It's a roadblock, and you'll remove the roadblock, because once I know it's there, I'm not just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna move it.
Yeah. There you go. Happy family. Let's give a big round of applause to our guest neighbor, Yasmin Burris, host of the Healing Hour. Yasmin, what's some social media handles that people can go follow you?
I love that. Yes. So Instagram is my primary platform at this time. So that is the.healing hour, one word spelled normally. And then you can hear the podcast on Anchor Podcast, Spotify, Google, Circuit Breaker, just a lot, any type of podcast streaming except Apple. I'm not there yet. But you can find me there, and then in the future on Facebook, I hope to grow that platform, and that is just simply Healing Hour. So
all right, happy family, go follow my dear sister Yasmin Burris, all those social media handles of Healing Hour. Happy family, I want to thank you for again joining us for a wonderful conversation here on the Happy Healer podcast. Finish what you start, and hey, be strong in who you are, and know that you was created for greatness. And no matter what life brings you, love God, love self, love your neighbor. I'm your favorite neighbor, Jay Murray. And hey, till next time, be blessed.
That was so cute. I love your I don't know what you call it, but like your intro and then like your outro. I love the consistency.